Hi, my name is Reggie Rosignol with Chesapeake Bank, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about finding money to save. In other segments, we will talk about how much you should be saving and what are the best types of accounts to do that, and even the frequency that you could be contributing. But in this episode, we're just going to be reviewing some areas where most of us are prone to overspend or let money slip away and not even realize it. Because it really doesn't matter how much money you have coming in. If you're not fixing the leaks where it's slipping out, you're going to constantly be in this position, like you see on the screen, where we're feeling like we're struggling to stay afloat. And first, I just want to preface this before we get into it by saying each of us are in different seasons of our lives, and all of us will experience different seasons throughout our life. So if you identify with anything on these screens, please do not feel any shame or weirdness about it. It is the whole purpose of this presentation is just to maybe introduce some ideas or areas where you could challenge yourself to start saving and cutting back. And it's not meant to be comprehensive. There will be things I missed, which will make great content for another episode. It's also not intended to be overwhelming. Hopefully, one thing on the list will just strike you, and that would be a great place to start. And then you can challenge yourself onto the next thing once you've mastered that. Anyway, proceeding now. So, some of the areas that we are most prone to overspend are almost always in food, whether that is in dining, fast food, sitting down in a restaurant, snacks, or in groceries, impulse purchases, convenience, anything that is convenience related, whether it's to save you time or bring something to you, will always have a little bit more of an upcharge with that. Housing and transportation is another area, and we're not really going to get into that in this presentation, but the gist of it is that oftentimes when we're comparing what others have to what we want, or when we're thinking about things we want to have, we have a tendency, or can culturally, to buy more house than we need and more house than we can afford. And of course, when you do that with a house or anything new, even in transportation, buying a brand new car when an older one that doesn't have a payment might work, or taking other transportation methods, when you buy something new like that, there's always going to be more insurance, the more cost there is. So it's not just that the one price tag is expensive, but that the other things that come along with it can be more expensive too. Um, and we'll circle back on that in another segment. And of course, if you're a parent and you have kids, I just threw that on there because I know that many of us will relate. It is very easy for us to justify areas that we might overspend with our children, but that can be a place to start looking. What else? I'm sure that there are things that I've missed, but I would love to hear your feedback in the comments or through other channels, and maybe we can build another segment. So this first place may be an area that you haven't thought about before, and I call it going green because really it started with me trying to be a little bit more environment friendly. But it turns out that when you start trying to go green, a lot of times you can find ways to save money. And this comes down to a lot of your single use. I always get tongue twisted there. Your single use items and things that are disposable, you're literally throwing money away. And that is not to cause shame. I had three small children and no dishwasher. In fact, I haven't had a dishwasher since I've moved out of my parents' house. And so, there was a time when I had three small kids where we lived off a lot of disposable items because it was easier for mental health and just trying to make space for other areas. There's no shame in that. I'm just bringing it up. So I went for a basic. I tried to do some math on a basic family of four, assuming that maybe you eat 2 meals a day on disposable items over 30 days, and that's 240 plates. So I priced all of these items at one of our local stores. If you bought 300 plates, that is $14.98, and it is not including if you try to double up or if you get a better quality plate to make it more sturdy. I couldn't find the off-brand of the Solo cups, so I know these are pricier, but those are $38.04 for about the same quantity of plates. Your plasticware, forks and spoons, a lot of us take lunch back and forth out, so those are $9.92. Trash bags, store brand, 13 gallons, $6.98. Storage bags, snacks, sandwich, gallon, freezer, Ziploc, all sorts of bags there. They come at a cost too of $2.28, $4.67. Put chapstick in one of my environmentally things just because it was plastic that you throw away, and my children all love Aquaphor. So there's $4.76 a tube. And then most households have paper towels. That's a 6-pack of Sparkle is $7.28. So Here you can see where you might not buy all of these items every month, but the first time that you buy them all, that's $88.91. And then you're replacing these items as you use them. So that is potentially this amount of money that you are paying regularly at some point if you use all of these items or even some of them that could be going in savings. There are a lot of things now that you can do in replace of that. That would mean instead of using paper plates or plasticware, you use the dishes that you have or dishes on campus or dishes, in your community facilities. Trash bags, I do need to expand on that one. That is me trying to eliminate plastic. And so I actually have a container. I compost, I burn, I dump scraps out in the woods for the animals in the country, and I recycle. And so I just have a container of trash that I take to the dump every week, and then I wash the container out. I know that's not ideal for a lot of people, but it doesn't bother me. And it was a place that I could start. So if you have other solutions, I'll hear those suggestions too. But storage bags, that would be finding smaller containers that fit in your lunchbox or in the freezer that you could use instead. Chapstick, there's a lot of hygiene products and even cleaning products that you can make at home with many of the ingredients you already have on hand. You could just, as you use these items, you could buy the new container or the new permanent version one at a time as your budget allows to replace them that way. So with chapstick, you can buy little glass roller bottles from your local health store normally, and you just use olive oil or another type of oil in them that works surprisingly well. Also, household cleaning items that you can clean most things with vinegar and baking soda, and you can make your own shampoo and toothpaste and deodorant. And I do have recipes for some of those, but there are a lot of things that you can look for online to eliminate having to repurchase some of these items. And we haven't even talked about like fabric sheets instead, or getting dryer balls instead, or even feminine hygiene products. That's definitely a reoccurring thing in most households. And you can also get a lot of permanent solutions for those now. The argument of cloth diapers over disposable diapers. There are a number of things that you can have in your home that you might be disposing of because it's out of habit that we could replace to save more money. The next slide, it says it's not fast food, but first I do want to preface it with a thing about fast food. So, most households are pretty hectic and busy. Even if you're single, it's very easy to live life on the road and going in between things. You might even work on the road, or if you're in construction and you don't have a way to keep a lunch in your car. If you have kids in sports, there's a lot of reasons. A meeting ran long after work. You can find yourself in a pinch and need to get food out, even if you're trying not to do that. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a bonding experience as well. But this whole slide is about, we can tell ourselves that it's not because that we're not spending money on fast food because we're not in a drive-through or we're not going regularly. And we overlook the area of convenience stores where we are getting snacks and it still adds up. And some people do choose to get lunch, or out of necessity need to get lunch through convenience store options. And those funds also add up there. I will say, if you're trying to figure out how to eliminate that, it might help you when you think about fast food to maybe sit down and do a comparison between menus and maybe come up with things off the dollar item or one of the more affordable fast food chains when you're making your list. So if you do get in a pinch, you're not kind of flying by the seat of your pants, figuring out and making a last minute decision, which could be impulsive and more expensive. You have a little plan for in the moments when you catch yourself off guard and you need to eat out. You already know where you might spend that money if you can't take something with you that you keep in your car. Anyway, so it's not about fast food. I also went to a local convenience store and priced things that people buy regularly there. So again, flipping back and forth between trying to be modest, I did price a 20-ounce Coke for $2, or soft drink, for $2.69. It was a generic bottle of water for the same size as at $1.29. A bag of Trolleys, that is because my youngest son loves Trolley gummy worms, and they do not come in a single serve bag. They come in a big bag. But there's gum. You can get the cup of coffee here and not at one of the barista type places. If you choose to eat there, you might want to go for hot dogs, which is a cheaper option, but I price that instead of pizza or the big subs or some of the other meals you can get now. So those are $1.99, a bag of chips. I priced Marlboro cigarettes because they were the first ones I saw the price of behind the counter, but I know vapes are also a popular item right now that are $4.98. And of course, the lottery ticket at $1. Either way, if you go through and you add up the total of all of these items and you divide it by the quantity of them, the average of that is $2.89 a piece. If you do 3 of these items a week, that is $8.67. So that's $34.68 a month. If you do this plus 1, that is 3 items for each of you, plus another person, plus the other person a week, that's $17.34, plus for the whole month, it would be $69.36. If you have multiple children, you're not going to do just for one of them. You're going to have to do that for each one of them. So you can see how quickly that it can add up. And if you look on the slide, you're also going to see some blue asterisks beside some of the items. That is if you are in one of those situations where you are eating lunch at convenience. I just randomly picked, and I know not everybody is buying cigarettes, but I just put some blue items to give you a price point. If you did all of those items every single day for lunch, the drink, the bottle of water, the hot dog, the chips, and the cigarettes, that comes to $16.73. If you do that every day for 5 days in a week, that comes to $83.65 for 1 week. So you can see how quickly that adds up over the month. So it's just a matter of just being aware. Sometimes we can't sit down and do the math right then, and we think it's only a couple bucks. It's not a big deal. It's not the same thing as fast food or what everybody else is doing. And you can see how it really does add up in the long run. I did something similar where I went into Food Lion recently, and everything I put in the cart, I compared to what was in the Walmart app while I was standing in the store. Now, I will also say here that there are a lot of people that can make some really amazing deals and make the most out of their grocery shopping experience by meal planning, especially around the sales flyers, by doing couponing and collecting rewards points. And they could really save a lot of money and use them to their advantage. I am not the person to talk about that. And so I would love some of my other peers that have that insight help get together, and maybe we can do another segment breaking that down. But for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna say that we made our list and went to the store. So Kroger is closer to me. It is a little bit more pricey when you're not using the rewards and the couponing system to shop. I prefer to do most of my shopping at Aldi, and then whatever I can't find anywhere else, I will then go to some of the other stores. Harris Teeter is not anywhere near my house, but it is in one of our markets, so I know it applies to some of us. And we'll come down to the bulk stores in a moment. Either way, all of these stores, or most of them, will have that grocery app online. And even I wouldn't, there's always an extra cost if for convenience, you're going to have them bring groceries out to you or even deliver them. I'm suggesting that you just go through your app with your grocery list and you kind of price point each item you're going to buy when you're making it. This is going to take some time, so you'll have to carve it out and plan for it. But just make your grocery list, go through each of those stores and see where it's cheaper, and try your list that way. I was surprised that while I was in Food Lion, everything that I scanned, even with the MVP, it was still $1 more than it was at Walmart. You can spend more money at Walmart because there are more options and more things to buy that you could put in your cart. But you might not think $1 or $2 is a big deal if it's, you're going to Food Lion and you're only buying a couple of things, that's fine. But if you're doing all of your weekly grocery shopping and you haven't done the comparison and you're not filing, going by the sales flyers and other ways to manage that, if you buy 100 items and it's $100 more, that's obviously a bigger difference when it's only $1 more an item. So it's just something to think about. Some of the bulk stores, that can be really great if you have someone that you can split that list with, and maybe you divide groceries between both of you. And so then you don't even have to go to the store as frequently. Or if you have a deep freezer, or if you do meal prep, that can make a lot of sense for you. Even with the membership fee, it still can work to your advantage. Comparing products. So you might notice that there's hair products on here that don't apply to some of you, but I have a lot of hair and it's curly. And if you're curly haired, you understand, but I also have sensitive skin. So there's a lot of things that I can't use. And so these are bigger bottles. I also don't wear makeup and I don't do my nails, and I'm not even really I don't even go for big wardrobes. There's nothing wrong with any of those things if you do, but that's why there's so much more hair material to work with here. So when I do buy hair products, I do typically like Joico. I go for liters. They are bigger bottles. They do last longer. These bottles that you see in these pictures, they came from the same store, or from 2 different stores. And one of them is Always. It is a very popular cosmetic store. It is Always Full price there at $80 for both bottles, which is insane to me. And even at the discount store, I'm not so fond of it, but it does last me a long time. So I will get the same exact bottles, same size, everything at half the price. But sometimes you also have to make concessions. I love the hair products that I get at the salon that you can see are $106 for the things, that I would prefer to buy. But my budget doesn't like that, but I actually don't enjoy spending that much money on products like that. And so there are affordable options. So just like when you're going to the grocery store and you're thinking about your sour cream or your cottage cheese or other products that you could buy, choosing between the store brand and the regular brand, sometimes we have to waste a little money to figure out the ones that work for us and try some different samples, but sometimes we might be pleasantly surprised with the products that we find that we like instead, that have a much better value. Now, obviously, the store brand or lesser brands don't always work out to be the same kind of product. And so that's just something that you have to weigh. You might choose the salons instead, but also think about tools and that you use. So, like shoes. The most expensive shoes I ever bought, I think, were $150, and I hated that. However, I bought them 7 years ago and I'm wearing them now. I still wear them regularly. The manufacturer, Dansko, is really great about upholding their product, and they've lasted me 7 years. I wear them almost every day in the winter, and they are a shoe that really supports my feet in a good way. You can go buy poorer or lesser quality products for $20. You could go get $20 shoes, which might be more affordable to your budget right this minute. But if they barely last you a season and you're replacing them every couple of months or every couple of seasons, sometimes the lesser value product doesn't really pay off. And the same is true when you think about tools and other investments, something that you use regularly and often. It may be worth spending a little bit more to get a better quality item. I have a picture of Nikes here because my son, shoes were his love language when he was in high school, and he loved Nikes. He had a pair that was very similar to this many years ago with the palm trees, and they were about $120 a pair, I think. And, that's not something that we could do regularly, especially when children outgrow their shoes so quickly. But our compromise was that there was a consignment shop right around the corner from us, and you could get the same exact pair of shoes. He bought his like this for $45. And so sometimes he would use his own money, but that was a way to still get the product, but thinking about different stores, just like the hair products, thinking about other ways you can get that product and still have the thing you want, but not pay full price for it. So what else? Vending machines. Maybe you don't eat out, you're not stopping in a convenience store, but there is a vending machine in your office or on campus that you hit up regularly, or not finishing products you don't use. So we talked about hair products, and sometimes everybody in the family wants a different product, and that applies to body wash and deodorant and shampoo, and then nobody finishes them and they can wind up in your cabinets. Maybe just challenge yourself to start finishing the things that you have before you go off and buy the next thing and get rid of all of the excess. And that can help put some money back in your pocket. Also, buying things you never use. So hobby supplies. I am an artist. I like to buy lots of new art things that I see to try techniques. It can be very easy no matter what the hobby is. You're a mechanic, you like tools, you're a carpenter. There's a variety of things we can get tied up in with that. You want to get the next thing, and maybe it just sits in a drawer after you've spent money on it and you don't always get to use it as much as you thought you would or intended to. Buying clothing, you can see some great sales, you really like the item, and you can have a closet full of things with tags still on them and not even wear them. That can be a very big leak that easily happens to many, or buying gadgets and other things like that. We already talked about the name brand over the lesser brand, but storage units, people go through transitions all the time. And, it can be easier to put money in storage. There's no problem with that. But sometimes those transitions can last a little bit longer than we intended them to. And we have a lot of sentimental things in storage. We have a lot of things we've worked hard for and things that are personal to us. And so it can be hard to think about letting go of any of that. And I'm not saying that you have to, but sometimes that's an area that we don't even consider. And if you've had your items in storage for an extended period of time, and especially if there's multiple units, it might be worthwhile to just do the math and see if that money could be serving you more now. And if there is something else that you can do, maybe sell some of the items you have or get rid of some of the items you have, so the things that you're trying to hold on to, you can actually bring into your living space. or make other arrangements for and get some of that money back in your pocket or into your savings account. Giving, it feels good to give and to support other causes and to help others when needed, but you can actually go over there as well. It can be so easy to get caught up into the feel good moments and the wanting to help. And sometimes we do it out of obligation and feeling like we have to, especially if you have large families. If you've got 18 cousins and they all have kids and everybody's got a birthday every time you turn around, it can be very overwhelming to keep up. And a lot of families will go into debt trying to do that at Christmas. So it might be a conversation of, hey, how about this year we're only going to identify the immediate family members or specific family members that we will provide for at certain holidays. Or we're going to have a conversation with the extended family about drawing numbers or coming up with an alternative plan. And most of them would probably agree that they share the same experience you are if you're feeling overwhelmed by that. So it is an area to consider. We talked about convenience foods. The only thing I didn't say there was just about prepackaged foods. If it's pre-cut or it's covered in plastic and divided into many containers, oftentimes there's going to be more expense there than you buying apples and cutting them and putting them in your own personal containers yourself. Another great place to look is your statements, your interest rate charges and fees, whether that is late fees or if it is just fees to have the product. Review your statements and do so every month and make sure, if you're reviewing transactions, do it more frequently, but for the statements and fees, really pay attention to due dates and maybe make yourself a list of what's coming in and what's coming out, the dates that those are due so you can be on time, but also make a little column for the interest rate charges and fees and see what you're paying when that comes up every time. You might be surprised at how your money is going out there as well. And another fun one to talk about is the high cost of repairs or replacement of items in lieu of using YouTube. So I fixed a number of things at my house by watching YouTube videos, and we are so blessed to live in a time where you can find pretty much any kind of tutorial online like that now. So I had a big leak in my ceiling, and I had some wear and tear in other parts of my house that affected sheetrock, but it was going to cost me over $1,000 to fix those small places and to fix the place in my ceiling. I watched a YouTube video, I patched the ceiling myself, I cut out the sheetrock, I sanded it all down and got all the parts out and patched everything up. Would you hire me to be a professional sheetrocker? Not a chance. However, when you walk into my house, you don't see the big ugly spot, and you really can't even tell that a non-professional person did it unless you're standing right underneath it. And I bought materials for less than $100. So I saved a lot of money. Yes, it was something I needed to get fixed, but I saved a lot of money doing that myself. Same is true of my lawnmower. Like I said, there have been several items, but the lawnmower, man, I was mad about that one. Because mamas and adults, like, we need breaks too. We don't always like having all the adulting things we get to take care of. But I didn't want to pay $75 just to go have somebody look at my lawnmower. I watched a YouTube video. I took it apart. I didn't even have to buy parts for it. I really just had to clean the fuel system up, took it apart, cleaned it up, put it back together, fixed my lawnmower that afternoon. And even though it was irritating and I didn't want to, I was really proud of myself, not only for doing that, but also for the money that I saved and took care of what I needed. And I also didn't have to wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 months, like with some of the contractors. You can get the solution right now. Another area, and this would go great with some of the other food saving things that we talked about, but if you use apps like these are all common for rewards programs, showing you discounts, maybe cash back on some items, but really just helping you save money. Gas Buddy and Upside are both fuel related. The others are couponing systems. GoodRx is a very affordable solution for getting prescriptions. If you don't already have insurance, going through them for your prescriptions. So there are some apps out there that are designed to help you. Again, we would like to cover those in another segment. But these can also save a lot of money. So I would suggest using technology to your advantage. I have also heard, meal planning definitely can make a big dent in your grocery bill if you can find out how to buy the main ingredients that will make several meals and have leftovers out of that and repurpose them. But I've heard that a lot of people have started using ChatGPT and AI to do some meal planning. I very quickly experimented with an amount and a number of people, and I think it came back with some basics like we're all familiar with: spaghetti, beans and rice, things like that. But I'm wondering if maybe you experiment more with what you're hoping to buy. It can give you some other ideas related around that to help you meal plan better with variety in your home. So experiment there. And if not, it might also be able to refer you to some more credible sources to follow if you're looking for other people that are meal planning and doing it very well. Also, when it comes to technology, if you go to ches.bank, that is our bank website. And we do have a lot of budgeting tools and financial calculators on our website through our partner Bonsai. And you can also search for a lot of those items online as well. But there are tools all over the place in tech world that can help you when you're trying to learn how to save money and adjust your budget. Another area quickly to consider is possibly power in your home. Dominion Power offers an off-peak rate savings plan. You do have to sign up for that, and it does require possibly having to use your dishwasher and maybe even wash clothes at different hours, like non-peak times. There's some other things that you might have to do as part of that program, but that might be an opportunity for you to save money. Solar panels instead of regular power. You might have to cut trees down, which could have some protection for your home. So you might want to think about there and do some research. But there are also grant programs in some areas where you might qualify to get those if that is a fit for you. Smart thermostats, energy share assistance. If you're having trouble making your payments with your power bill, Energy Share is part of Dominion Power's program. And they have information about all of this, except maybe the solar panels on your website and on their website. You can also, they have suggestions like turning your lights off, setting timers, changing to more energy efficient bulbs and appliances in the home. So there is a concentrated area. You could look for solutions there. And as far as entertainment, I think most households have some form of viewing capacity. It used to be cable TV and satellite. And of course, there's bundles there, and it always makes sense to call back and check your providers to drop services and channels you're not using, not watching, and see if you can get smaller packages. But I would recommend at least annually, maybe even more, to call back and just talk to them about what you're experiencing and see what kind of discounts and what the current promos and programs are to see if you can find a savings there. And a lot of times they will accommodate that request. But also, you can watch a lot of things online for free on YouTube or other channels. You do have to deal with commercials, but that's not really the end of the world if you're saving money. In my household, we don't pay for any of those subscriptions, but we will buy a season. There's very few shows that we all agree on that we like. And so we will buy a season of something, and it just lasts us with our busy schedules. One season of something will last us a very long time. So it makes more sense for us to buy a season of a certain show. So that might be an opportunity for you to just think about doing it differently. Go back old school. Also try CDs and VHS. I guess it's DVDs and VHS if you still have the equipment to do so. And the library can be an incredible resource for entertainment purposes. So if you go to your local library and you get a membership, it's often free. Many of them now do have rentals, not only for VHS and CDs or DVDs, but they also have online digital movie and show watching programs that you can check out and rent just like you would with Netflix, but for free through your library membership. And they also have audiobooks, it's not called Audible, but it's similar to Audible, a comparable program. So anyway, you could also do something else with that time as a family instead of watching something together. So those are just some quick areas that I've noticed, and I've been able to make some changes, and I hope that maybe that also helps you. But becoming a saver ultimately means becoming a noticer. Really paying attention to your habits. It's just like any other kind of relationship you have with your children, with your spouse or a partner or a friend. You have to spend a lot of time together, and you know each other very well in order to have information about each other so you know how to do things differently or the way that you need to have the best relationship. And the same is true with your money. It is building that awareness and just really paying attention and checking in with yourself about your habits and noticing when you go to make that purchase. Are you doing it, impulsively? Is this really the best time for me to get it? Is it the best product and the best price that I can get it? So thinking about things like that, and maybe just seeing what comes up for you. You might even like journaling about some of those experiences. Typically, we talk about needs and wants at the beginning of these episodes and series in some of our classes, because if you can identify your needs, it helps weigh out the other options. But when you're just learning to become a noticer, I wanted to put this at the end to help ask better questions. And some of the questions I like to ask myself is, can I eat it? Will it provide me shelter? Will it keep me warm? So Obviously, there are things like medicine and transportation that can also be a need. So it really embraces things you need to survive. You might need your car to get to work. There are a lot of things that could fall in that bucket that are different for each of us, but it can really boil down to these questions. So as you're becoming a noticer and learning how to save more money, this can be a great conversation piece that you have with yourself or a partner about what you are going to spend your money on and where you will try and spend the most and where you will cut back on others, especially when the money starts running out. So what I miss? I'm sure that you have thought of something, some spending problem or spending habit that you might have that I didn't touch on here. I would love to hear about that. And if you found a way to master some of your own saving solutions, I would love to hear that feedback as well. And maybe you can join me in one of these episodes or share so that we can share with others. But either way, I am so grateful that you tuned in, and I would love to hear any of your feedback. And thank you again, and let us know what else we should be discussing in future segments.